Hello, today we're going to look at programming the eLube Datalog controller. Before looking at the controller or doing any of the programming, please refer to the FLO service manual. If you have any questions, please call FLO Components. First, we will look at the icons and what they mean in reference to the operation of the controller. The top one here, when it is lit, shows you that power is onto the controller, and you can also tell by the numbers on the LED screen. The next one below it is a Bluetooth icon, and that lights up when it is connected to a smartphone through the Bluetooth app. When we go into the configuration mode, this gear set here will light up and indicate that we are now in the programming. The controllers are set up on a timing sequence, so when the lube event is happening and the pump is running, this icon here will light up. This one here shows you that right now we're in pause time between lube events, and that also shows you by the LED lights here giving you the countdown on the next lube event. This icon here shows you when it goes into a lube failure. This light will come on, as well as a horn function here will come on, which you can turn off by pressing this button here. This icon here is a low level. When your reservoir goes into low level, this icon will come up and a message will occur in this LED screen here. Now let's get into the programming of the controller. The first step into setting the program of this controller is you have to press the top and the bottom button at the same time. When that happens, you will hear the beep from the controller. This icon will light up, as well as you'll get 4 zeros across on the screen. These controllers can be password protected by a 4-digit PIN code. For today's example, we have set the PIN code at 2580. So to get into the PIN code, we start pressing the top button till we hit the 2. To go to the next, we now hit the right button and we start going to 5. Again, hit the right button. We go to 8. Hit the right button. We still have the 0. Now we hit the OK. Now that we're getting into the programming of this controller, the first step is to program it for the type of system that is being operated. These controllers we use for operating progressive style systems, which actually you can see on the display above. By pressing the right arrow, we're now looking into the run programming or setting the runtime of the actual lube system. By pressing it again, right, the runtime is adjustable in either minutes or seconds. This we show you as being set for a runtime of 6 minutes. By keep on pressing the right, we now go into the seconds, so that you can go up and down to get your figures. By backing out, we go back into the runtime. By hitting the bottom arrow, we now go into the pause time. The pause time is the amount of time that the system is off or not running in a lube event. That is adjustable in days, hours, minutes, and seconds. Again, by going to the right arrow, we now look at days, hours, which it is set for 1, so every hour it'll be off and then run for 6 minutes. There's minutes and there's seconds. By going to the left arrow, you are backing out to pause time. You now go into heavy pause time. As you can see by these two icons here, the first one is a smaller drop of oil. That is your standard time. You can program this controller to have 2 set of timing in case you get into an application where you need a lot more lubrication. You can already preset this controller for a heavy pause time. We currently have this set at 0, so we are going to the next event, which is your run control. Run control is actually how the system is actually going to be running. If you press the right button, it goes into what mode are we looking at. Are we going to be going with a timer mode, which we are. So the timer mode is 6 minutes of runtime. You can actually go into a control mode or a cycle switch, and that is the operation of the system. As we back out to the run control, we now go into the prelude. Prelude is the event where as soon as power is applied, you can have the system come on and go through a lube cycle. To program this step, you press the right key arrow and you can see that it is set for off. Prelude can be adjusted between off, on, which means that every time the system power is turned off and then turned back on, the lube system goes into a lube event, or a 3-hour memory in ways that if the power is turned off and if it comes back on within 3 hours, it holds that spot and picks up from where it left off. After 3 hours, the controller, once the power is put back on, goes into a pre-lube event. The next step goes into your low level setting. This is dealing with the low level of the lubricant level in the tank by programming this. Again, you can press the right button. As you can see, this is NO for normally open. That is what type of switch do you have on your reservoir, normally open or normally closed. To program it to normally closed, you press the top arrow. We go back to the normally open, which is what on our systems the switch is. Once that is programmed for normally open, we then go back to the main control. As we press the down key, we now get into the error setup. This setup is regarding if you have an external contact like a light or a horn. You can actually set this up now for the controller to energize a relay to turn on a horn or a light, either by every low level or a lube failure or both. You can program them individually or all together. This last section is to deal with an external signal from, let's say, ignition, that the controller can be wired up with an external signal. These systems primarily are only connected to direct power, so the external or remote signal startup is not used. One advantage to this controller is that it is now compatible through Bluetooth to Android and smartphones. There is a QR code located on the side of the controller that you can scan and download the app. As you see right here, we have a smartphone that picks up this controller, and by hitting the controller, the blue light icon comes on, and now we are tapped into the actual controller, noticing all the different functions that is happening. We can actually see the current time on your pause time. If we wanted to manually activate the lube system remotely, by this being connected, and remember this is Bluetooth, so you have to be within about 5 meters, by hitting this blue button, you will then go into a lube event for whatever that is set for. Currently this controller is set for a 6-minute on time. That means that if a manual lube event, this would essentially start the system for 6 minutes. On the bottom of the app, we have a logbook, which you can then look at different events on this system. As we see right here, As well as, the nice thing about this is down on the bottom right is a share button, which if you hit that, you could then send this data, this information, to an email address, to whichever you determine. If we go back, we can also do the exact same thing regarding errors. Again, we can do a share on that, on all the errors that have been detected, as well as time-stamped. This icon right down here, it says settings. By hitting that settings, you then go into the settings that is actually set on the individual controller. You can change those settings. You can share those settings by exporting it and again sending it to an email. But everything can be downloaded or changed on your cell phone, which is connected to your controller, and change the parameters on the controller.